What is God? The question isn't a riddle to solve, but an unending melody, playing in the silence behind every thought. It's not a puzzle with an answer neatly tucked away. It's a doorway that opens into more doorways, each revealing another layer of reality, each asking you to step further into the unknown. To even ask, what is God, is to step into a paradox. The moment you name God, you limit God. Yet, we are compelled to name, to describe, to draw maps of the ineffable, because our human minds crave structure. Is God a being with will and intent? Or is God the very fabric of existence itself? The silent observer that witnesses without judgment, the spark that ignites every flame, the ocean holding every wave. Or perhaps God is something more elusive still, not a what, but a why, the force that makes stars burn and hearts yearn. When you ask what is God, you're also asking, what am I in relation to the infinite? Because the two questions are inseparable. If God is the ocean, are you simply a drop of water within it? Or are you the ocean itself, temporarily forgetting your vastness? Many spiritual traditions suggest that God is not something out there, but something so intimate it's indistinguishable from your own essence. The Upanishads whisper, Tattvam Asi, meaning that thou art, or you are that. Mystics across cultures tell us that to know God is to know yourself, and to know yourself is to glimpse the divine. Yet even this recognition doesn't settle the question, it deepens it. If you are part of God, then every moment is sacred, every experience a reflection of the divine, whether in the brilliance of a sunrise or the aching solitude of a sleepless night. Every tradition, every culture has tried to paint a picture of God, each using the colors of its own time, place, and understanding. A stern father figure watching over his children, a nurturing mother cradling creation, a boundless void out of which all things arise and return. The Taoists say, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao, suggesting that the divine resists all description. And yet we describe. We create myths, rituals, and scriptures because the longing to know God is woven into the very fabric of our being. These depictions aren't lies, they are lenses, ways to glimpse the infinite from our finite perspectives. They're shadows cast by the light of truth, distorted by the walls of language, culture, and perception. If God wears every mask and speaks every name, then what we call contradictions are really facets of a greater whole. God is the stern judge and the forgiving savior, the roaring thunder and the still small voice. The divine isn't bound by our categories, it transcends them. We often mistake the mask for the face, the shadow for the light. We cling to our particular vision of God as if it's the only truth, forgetting that every perspective is partial. This clinging is where division begins, where the infinite becomes fragmented in our minds. And yet, those fragments, when pieced together, begin to reveal a mosaic, the unity beneath the diversity. Perhaps this is the deeper question we should ask, not just, what is God? But, why is there anything at all? Why do we exist to ask these questions, to marvel at the mystery, to wrestle with meaning? To ponder God is to stumble inevitably into the question of our own purpose, for the two are intertwined. If God is the source, what does that make us? And if we are reflections of the divine, what does that imply about why we are here in this vast and bewildering cosmos? Life, with all its pain and beauty, seems both random and intentional. Perhaps we are here to grow, to stretch the boundaries of what it means to love, to experience, to create. Or maybe we're here simply to be, to live as expressions of the divine in its infinite curiosity. Some traditions say we are souls working out karma, fragments of God remembering our wholeness. Others suggest this is all a cosmic game where the divine plays hide and seek with itself. The purpose isn't something to find, it's something to live, moment by moment, breath by breath. But if God is universal, why do we see so many religions, so many interpretations of the divine? Humanity, fractured by geography, culture, and history, has always gazed at the same stars but seen different constellations. The Inuit shaman praying to the spirit of the polar bear, the Hindu chanting to Krishna, the Christian kneeling before the cross, all are reaching toward the same ineffable source, shaped by the language of their time and place. Religion is a translation, and like any translation, it carries the beauty and limitations of its context. Yet beneath the surface differences lies a golden thread, a shared longing, a recognition of the sacred, an attempt to make sense of existence. This common thread is the key. Strip away the rituals, the dogmas, the hierarchies, and what remains? a call to transcend the self, a recognition of something greater, the urge to love, to serve, to connect. Whether it's the Christian commandment to love your neighbor, the Buddhist path to alleviate suffering, or the Sufi's ecstatic surrender to divine love, the core teachings of the world's religions converge like rivers flowing into an ocean. They remind us that we are more alike than we are different, that the divine is not confined to any one creed, but speaks through all of them. And yet religion has also been the source of division, war, and suffering. Why? Because humans, in our fear and ego, distort the infinite into something small and controllable. We create rules and hierarchies to make sense of the divine, but in doing so we build walls instead of bridges. We use God to justify our prejudices, to enforce power structures, to cling to the illusion of certainty. The darkest aspects of religion aren't divine, they're human. They arise when we mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. So how do we reconcile these differences, these contradictions? By shifting our focus from belief to experience. Faith, at its best, is not about agreeing on doctrines, but about walking together toward the sacred. It's about humility, about recognizing that no one has the full picture. We reconcile by listening, not to argue but to understand, by seeing the divine in the other, even when their path looks nothing like our own. But then comes the bigger question. Does God even exist at all? To some, God's existence is as obvious as the sunrise woven into the fabric of their lives. To others, the absence of proof is proof enough. Perhaps the question itself is flawed, rooted in our dualistic thinking. To say God exists assumes a separation, that there is a God and a not God, a being that either is or isn't. But what if God is the ground of all being, the space in which existence itself unfolds? Asking if God exists is like asking if love exists. It's not something you prove, it's something you feel, something you live. But then we have the thorny question of suffering. Why does a loving God allow pain, injustice, and death? The problem of evil has haunted theologians for centuries, and every answer feels insufficient. Free will? A test? Karma? Growth? The truth may be that suffering is woven into the fabric of existence, perhaps not as a punishment, but as a teacher. Without darkness, would we understand light? Without loss, would we cherish love? Perhaps God doesn't allow suffering, but experiences it with us, as us. The divine isn't distant, it's in the tears, the laughter, the aching beauty of it all. Death, too, is another paradox. What happens after we die? Religions offer countless answers: heaven, reincarnation, the void. But the mystery remains. Maybe death isn't an end, but a transition. A return to the source. A shedding of form to reveal the formless. Or maybe it's the final illusion, dissolving into the eternal now. What's certain is that the awareness of death changes how we live. It strips away pretense and reminds us of what truly matters. To live with the knowledge of death is to live with urgency, with gratitude, with the courage to face life's fleeting beauty head-on. And in this fleeting beauty lies the divine paradox, that life is both temporary and eternal, that we are both finite and infinite, that God is both knowable and unknowable. The paradox isn't something to solve, it's something to embrace. It asks us to hold opposites lightly, to see unity in diversity, to find peace in the mystery. So how can we know God? Not through answers, but through presence. God isn't an idea to understand, it's an experience to surrender to. It's in the stillness of meditation, the laughter of a child, the vastness of a starry sky. It's in the act of creation, the choice to love, the willingness to be fully alive. Knowing God isn't about certainty, it's about openness, about letting the divine reveal itself in the cracks of our understanding. The search for God ends not in discovery, but in recognition, that the divine has always been here, as the breath of the universe, and the spark within your very soul. Thanks for watching. If you found value in this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.